Hello everybody, welcome back to part 2 of the Hemi Jeep project. We finally got our parts in and I am hyped to get this monster back in the vehicle. And if you stay tuned, we'll show you everything about it. Uh, so we're gonna be building a short block and we're gonna put the camshaft in. We're going to clean up the engine after we build the short block. We're gonna work on the long block after, and we're gonna be putting the heads in, right? Is that what they're called?
The heads. Doing this as we go.
Right.
At this point, we were just adding some red Loctite to the camshaft thrust plate. We forgot to do that the first time we installed it. After we were done doing that, we went ahead and torqued them down to 106 inch-pounds.
Alright, now that we got the camshaft in, we're going to clean up on the front end, get the oil pump and timing chain on, and we're going to move on.
Come to my attention that not a lot of people know what a bristle disc is. Back in my day, we used these all the time. So when you're using a new razor blade, there's microscopic burrs that you want to make sure you knock off before you put it on a gasket surface. The way I do that is I'll find a piece of flat glass and I'll run it against the glass a couple of times, switching every time, and then once I'm done, I'll do like a paintbrush, and that knocks off all the invisible little burrs. Okay, so we're gonna get ready to put the timing chain back on. And part of that, if you look right here, you'll see a divot in this tooth right there. That needs to be at the very bottom. So that should put this at top dead center. And to verify, we're gonna rock it back and forth a little bit. All right, there's top dead center. And verify here, look right. That's top dead center here. So now we're gonna put the cam phaser on. And there should be 2 indications here on this. You'll see here, and then the 2 on the bottom. The one with 1 goes up top, and you'll see directly below it on the sprocket, there's an indicator here. And you'll see our alignment here. Come close, you'll see the 2 marks. I had it wrong before, but the 2 marks go to the cam side. And the single mark should line up down below on the crankshaft. So here's your timing chain tensioner. I like to use an Allen key. You just go ahead and squeeze it however you want to. You can use a vise if your hands aren't strong enough. You want to make sure that your key doesn't stick out much farther than that. Once you have your holder in, you can go ahead, make sure that all the slack is taken up by rotating this counterclockwise. You should be able to use these bolts, get them finger tight, and a 10 millimeter, and torque them to spec. Okay, it's telling us that these are supposed to be 21 foot-pounds. I'm going to say don't do that. The plate was about the same in the back, and I used it at 106 inch-pounds, and that's about as tight as I'd want on those little tiny bolts. So once you get these at 106 inch-pounds, you torque it whatever you think is comfortable. If you find a torque sheet, go ahead and pull this, and then that takes up the slack on your timing chain. So we're going to rotate this a couple of times to verify that these end up where they're supposed to be. So this is supposed to be at the top, this is supposed to be at the bottom. All right, once you get your oil pump on, after you get your timing set in that order, you go ahead and hand tight your bolts. Once you're comfortable with them being hand tight, don't forget to torque them to spec. Once your timing cover is ready, we got a new front crank seal here. You want to take this guard off and oil it up. We have some assembly lube in here, and then we put the guard back on. We're just going to go ahead and tab a little bit right here with some black RTV, because this is a seam, and we'll come back to this later on installing it on this side, but oil pan will be done at another time. So our timing cover is ready to go back on. At this point, I'm just talking about how important it is for your sealing surfaces to be clean, and the gasket here that I just showed you, that it's symmetrical. It doesn't look like it's pushed over to one side. These things can leak. They have a tendency if you install the gasket wrong. It can get confusing if you don't keep track here, guys. So you see how many threads we have? This obviously isn't the right bolt. You keep picking the bolt until you've got an acceptable amount of threads. I would say that's not the right one either. Is it going to be a short one like this? No. So it's going to be somewhere in between on length. There, that's an acceptable one right here. So you go back through, make sure that you've got, an inch or two worth of threads, and get your timing cover installed. All right, now that we've got the front cover on, these are the bolts that we use to get it secured. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I went ahead and marked, using a permanent marker, the bolts that I needed that were water pump only. And that allowed me to hang the water pump bolts on, because some of them are shared by the timing cover and the water pump. But the ones that are marked here are not. So to recap, we've got the thermostat gasket replaced, water pump gasket replaced, timing cover gasket replaced, and a new front crank seal. Everything's torqued to spec, and we don't have to worry about anything leaking or causing us problems.
We almost forgot to torque the what's it called?
The camshaft sprocket. Yeah, we had
camshaft.
to actually take this back off and then re-torque it and double check everything.
Catastrophic.
It would have been bad, but you know, it's sometimes you just got to slow down and take your time. Well, that wraps it up for this episode, guys. Thanks for watching. We've come a long way so far. Stay tuned for part 3.